Please start. Somebody.
I can,
Help. Each of you can tell 2, 3 points, then it will be over. Then we can continue.
Yeah. So what we discussed yesterday was Maxim 2, a few pages of Maxim 2. We started with uh, the importance of prayer. That's what the Maxim 2 is about. So, what exactly prayer signifies? That it is a sign of devotion. That's the first thing that is mentioned. It is also considered as a connecting link between master and the serf. And serf means basically servant. That's the literal translation. So it's like a connecting link between master and servant. That these are the 2 points. ಮತ್ತೆ ಯಾರಾದ್ರೂ ಹೇಳ್ತಾರಾ? Or I can continue.
So, like telegraphy, when one end of the devotee makes himself known to the master by the current of his own power. So, generally, if the connection is established, whatever is of the master will flow to the devotee as well. Then we talked about how the master becomes more and more closer to the devotee. So in the beginning, the devotee had only conveyed about his cognizance to the master, but subsequently, because of the effect of the devotion, master begins to adopt nearness to him, um, till the thought of actual communion began to pervade within him. Then, once the communion occurs with the master, the divine revelations and nature's command actually begin to flow to the descend upon the devotee, and that's the first phase of initiation. We spoke about the different phases of initiation. You remember, this is the first phase of the initiation, and then you have a higher level of initiation as well. Yeah. That occurs at the ninth point. Okay. So earlier, whatever we 3 sittings that you are now taking, that's a different thing. There used to be different kind of initiation, and Babuji actually modifies this initiation to suit the current system that we practice. So during Lalaji's time, initiation was done in a different way. Then Babuji, over the course of next few years, he modifies the initiation, and Lalaji hails the modification that Babuji does. So initiation is a very important part of our process in this system. It actually makes you bound by a promise to the master that these are the things that you actually promise the master in terms of doing or handling things. So that's what you do. In fact, when you go to Kanha for preceptor training after your exams, then you also promise something to master and come. And before you come from Kana to Bangalore, you would have forgotten the promises. And that's the beauty of it. By the time they come back to Bangalore, all the promises are up in the air. When you are in Kana, you will say, I will do this, I will do that. You will promise the sky to the master. Then you will say, after coming back to Bangalore, we're all bound by the earth. Where is the question of sky? That's what you'll say. But then it's also a matter of gradual evolution, because we have to learn to come here and then get used to the perceptor work, and then learn the perceptor work, and then gradually do the work as promised to the master. And gradually, over a period of a few years, some of the promises that you made to the master will gradually come back to you in due course of time. And then when you start taking it seriously and then proceed further on towards a higher level of the journey, then again you have another level of initiation at the ninth point, where master gives you a different kind of initiation. So those are all realms of possibilities for every abhyasi and every preceptor. And every abhyasi and preceptor should strive for that. Okay. So anyway, so then we talked about the 3 states of prayer, the state of prayer initially, then prayerful state, Initially prayer, then prayerful state, and the embodiment of prayer. The embodiment of prayer being at the 12th point. You remember those 3 points? And what is necessary to acquire the prayerful state is constant practice. And in prayer, we actually create a state of vacuity in the heart so that the divine grace can actually descend into our heart. That's what happens. And what actually makes the prayer unfailing? Having a supplicant heart. In Kannada, we call it as Dina Bhava, Dainyata, ದೀನನಾಗಿ. ಕನ್ನಡದಲ್ಲಿ ಹಾಡು ಕೇಳಿದ್ದೀರಾ? ಯಾವುದು ಭಕ್ತ ಕನಕದಾಸ ಹಾಡು ಕೇಳಿದ್ದೀರಾ? ಯಾರು ನೋಡಿಲ್ಲ. ಬಾಗಿಲನ್ನು ತೆರೆದು ಅಂತ ಹಾಡು ಬರುತ್ತಲ್ಲ, ಕೇಳಿದ್ದೀರಾ? ಕೇಳಿದಿರಲ್ವಾ? ಅದರಲ್ಲಿ ಫಸ್ಟ್ ಸ್ಟ್ಯಾಂಡ್ಸಾ ಬರುತ್ತೆ. ಫಸ್ಟ್ ಸ್ಟ್ಯಾನ್ಸಾ ಈಸ್ ದೀನ ನಾನು ಸಮಸ್ತ ಲೋಕಕ್ಕೆ ದಾನಿ ನೀನು. ದಟ್ಸ್ ದ ಫಸ್ಟ್ ಲೈನ್. ಆಯ್ತಾ? ವಿಚಾರಿಸಲು ಮತಿಹೀನ ನಾನು, ಕೈವಲ್ಯಪತಿ ನೀನು. ವಿಚಾರಿಸಲು ಮತಿಹೀನ ನಾನು, ಮಹಾಮಹಿಮ ಕೈವಲ್ಯಪತಿ ನೀನು. ಏನ ಬಲ್ಲೆನು ನಾನು, ನೆರೆ ಸುಜ್ಞಾನ ಮೂರ್ತಿ ನೀನು. ನಿನ್ನ ಸಮಾನರುಂಟೆ ದೇವ, ರಕ್ಷಿಸು ನಮ್ಮನು ಅನವರತ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿ ಆಮೇಲೆ ಹಾಡು ಶುರು ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. ಸರಿನಾ? ಸೊ ಆ ದೀನ ಭಾವದಿಂದ, ಸೊ ದಟ್ ಸಪ್ಲಿಕೇಶನ್ ಮೀನ್, I don't know what they say in Hindi. Supplication is like Deen Bhav se. I don't know whether it's the same thing in English, in Hindi. So in Kannada it's called as Deena Bhava. So Dainya Dinda. So Hindi probably is the same word. So दीन भाव से जब हम प्रार्थना करते हैं तब जो प्रार्थना फेल नहीं होता है, मजबूरन भगवान को उसकी पूर्ति करनी पड़ती है. सो हम भगवान से हट कर सकते हैं, ये याद रखिए. जब हम बच्चे जैसे बन जाते हैं ना, तब भगवान से हम हट कर सकते हैं. जब तक हम अडल्ट रहेंगे हट नहीं कर सकते.
ಹಟ್ ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ?
हट ಅಂದ್ರೆ हट ಮಾಡೋದು.
ಓಕೆ.
जब आप छोटे बच्चे जैसे बन जाते हैं तो आप भगवान से हट कर सकते हैं. ಹಠ ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದು ಭಗವಂತನ ಹತ್ರ. ನನಗೆ ಅದು ಬೇಕು, ನನಗೆ ಮಕ್ಕಳು ಹಠ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರಲ್ಲ, ನಂಗೆ ಚಾಕ್ಲೇಟ್ ಬೇಕು ಅಂತ. तो द चिल्ड्रन हट करते हैं ना, मुझे चॉकलेट चाहिए. ऐसा हम भी कर सकते हैं भगवान से, मुझे ये चाहिए वो चाहिए. जब पहले भगवान को हम अपना बना लेते हैं, ಭಗವಂತನ ಫಸ್ಟ್ ನಾವು ನಮ್ದಾಗ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಂಡ್ಬಿಡ್ಬೇಕು, ಆಮೇಲೆ ಏನ್ ಬೇಕಾದ್ರೆ ಹಠ ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದು, ನಮ್ಮ ಇಷ್ಟ. ದಟ್ಸ್ ದ ಸೀಕ್ರೆಟ್. ವಿ ಡೂ ದ ಅದರ್ ವೇ ಅರೌಂಡ್. ವಾಟ್ ವಿ ಡೂ ಇಸ್, ಫಸ್ಟ್ ವಿ ಡೂ ದ ಹಠ, ದ adamantly, and then we try to make him ours. But you reverse the equation, then it's the easiest thing to do. First you make him your own, and then you actually be adamant with him. Then he'll be forced to listen to you. He cannot run away from you. Where will he run away? When he is everywhere, how can he run away from you? That's the beauty of it. That's what Babuji says. We can actually make God compelled by our devotion. Once we make him our own, then he has no escape. In fact, we are more powerful than God, because God does not have mind. We have human body and mind, and also his proximity, his power. So who is more powerful, God or we? We are more powerful than God. Please remember that. Serena. That's why one of the bhaktas actually addressed God as a beggar. He says, I am far richer than you. You are like a beggar to me. Because without me, you cannot move. ಭಗವಂತನೇ ತಿರ್ಕ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ಬಿಡ್ತಾನೆ ಭಗವಂತನ. ಆಯ್ತಾ? ದಟ್ಸ್ ವಾಟ್ ಹಿ ಕಾಲ್ಸ್ ಗಾಡ್. ದಟ್ ಹಿ ಇಸ್ ಲಿಟರಲಿ ಎ ಬೆಗರ್, ಬಿಕಾಸ್ ವಿತೌಟ್ ದ ಮೈಂಡ್ ಗಾಡ್ ಕೆನಾಟ್ ಮೂವ್. He has to have a medium of mind, and we have got that mind. So we can say, we now rule over you. So these are all very interesting points as we grow higher. But remember, easiest thing, पहले उनको अपना बना ले, उसके बाद हट करते रहना. जीवन भर उनको हट करते रहना. You can be adamant with him throughout your life. Then he cannot escape. ಆಯ್ತಾ? ನಿಖಿಲ್ ಇವಾಗ ಮದುವೆ ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾನೆ. ಮದುವೆ ಆದ್ಮೇಲೆ ಅವ್ರ ಹೆಂಡತಿ ಹಠ ಮಾಡ್ತು ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ ಕೇಳಲೇಬೇಕು, ಏನ್ ಮಾಡ್ಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಆಗಲ್ಲ ಅವನು. ಹೌದಾ ಇಲ್ಲ? ಮದುವೆಗೆ ಮುಂಚೆ ಏನೋ ಹಠ ಮಾಡ್ತು ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ ಅದ್ರ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ತಲೆ ಕೆಡಿಸ್ಕೊಳ್ಳದೆ ಇರ್ಬೋದು. ಮದುವೆ ಆದ್ಮೇಲೆ ಕೇಳಲೇಬೇಕಲ್ಲ, ಏನ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀಯ? ಅದೇ ತರನೇ ಭಗವಂತ ನಮ್ಮವನು ಆದ್ಮೇಲೆ ಅವ್ನು ನಮ್ಮ ಮಾತು ಕೇಳಲೇಬೇಕು. ಅವ್ನು ತಪ್ಪಿಸ್ಕೊಡ್ಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಆಗದೇ ಇಲ್ಲ. ಹೆಂಡತಿನಾದ್ರೂ ಆ ಕಡೆ ಈ ಕಡೆ ಓಡಾಡ್ಬೋದು, ತಪ್ಪಿಸ್ಕೋಬಹುದು. ಭಗವಂತ ಎಲ್ಲಿ ತಪ್ಪಿಸ್ಕೊಳ್ತಾನೆ? ಅವನು ಎಲ್ಲ ಕಡೆ ಇದ್ದಾನೆ, ಎಲ್ಲೋದ್ರೂ ಸಿಗ್ತಾನೆ ಅಲ್ವಾ? सो क्योंकि भगवान हर जगह है, तो हमारे हाथों से वो एस्केप नहीं हो सकता। ठीक है ना? सो हमारे मुट्ठी में रहेगा। ठीक है। वो ये सब बातें है ना, इस ग्रुप में ही रखिए, बाहर मत बताइए। ಹೊರಗಡೆ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ ಯಾರು ಯಾರು ಏನು ಅನ್ಕೊಂಡ್ಬಿಡ್ತಾರೆ, ಯಾರು ಗೊತ್ತು. ಆಯ್ತು. Anyway, so when we pray in the state of supplication, the prayer will never go unanswered. He is bound to fulfill that prayer. Okay. And then we talked about how remembrance actually makes the bond between God and us stronger and stronger. The more we remember him, the more that bond of love actually gets strengthened. And then we talked about prayer not having any particular time. We can pray at any particular point of time. And we should not actually pray for any material gains. All that we can pray for God, once we understand the true meaning of prayer, is that we can only tell God, you know more about me, you do what is necessary for me. That's all. That's all we can say. We cannot say, you do this for me, you do that for me. That's all. So, after a few years of marriage, this is what we will say to our wife. We will not say, you cook this or cook that. We will say, you know all the things that we like, you cook whatever we want, we will be happy with that. That's what happens. ನೋಡು, ಧೀರಜ ಖುಷಿ ಪಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾನೆ, ನಮ್ ನಿಖಿಲ್ ಖುಷಿ ಪಡ್ತಾ ಇಲ್ಲ. ಧೀರಜ್ ಖುಷಿ ಪಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾನೆ. ಅವ್ನು ಇನ್ನು ಎಷ್ಟು ವರ್ಷ ಧೀರಜ್ ನಿಂಗೆ? 25 ವರ್ಷನಾ? 25?
Yes, brother.
See, Dheeraj is more happy hearing all these things. ಆಯ್ತು, ಗೋಪಾಲಕೃಷ್ಣ ಕೇಳಪ್ಪ.
It probably answered, but I don't remember. How does God know what we want? That's the question, because it doesn't have a mind. That's the catch.
The moment we remember God, we impart our mind to him.
Oh.
That's all. The vibration in our heart, see this heart, the first point is one end. If you take a thread, it has two ends. One end is the first point. The other end is the center. So whatever arises here in the first point immediately creates a vibration in the center. So when we remember him, not only we actually create a vibration in the center, with the help of our mind, he gets to know everything that we have got. So in other words, we might not be able to remember our past life, but he can remember every other life that we have passed through. So he is the best judge of what is required for us in terms of our journey. Because he can see through every life. There is one important movie, I don't know. I keep telling different movies. There are a lot of things you can actually learn from old movies. There is a movie called as ಮೂರುವರೆ ವಜ್ರಗಳು. ಕನ್ನಡ ಮೂವಿ ಕೇಳಿದಿರಾ ಯಾರಾದ್ರೂ? It's there online free on YouTube. ಮೂರುವರೆ ವಜ್ರಗಳು, acted by Rajkumar. So I want you to see the initial few minutes of that movie. And there's a very peculiar thing written on the skull of that particular person. And that skull actually enters Brahmaloka. Then Narada is actually intrigued. What is this fellow? What is this that you have written on this forehead of this person? Then Brahma explains. So that part I want you to see. So it is there in the first 10-15 minutes of that movie. ಮೂರುವರೆ ವಜ್ರಗಳು. So please see that movie. ಆಯ್ತಾ? ಕನ್ನಡದವ್ರು ಯಾರಿದ್ದಾರೆ ಎಲ್ಲರೂ ವಾಚ್ ಮಾಡ್ರಪ್ಪ. ನೋಡಿ ಎಂಥ ಪರ್ಸೆಪ್ಟರ್ ನಿಮ್ಗೆ ಸಿಕ್ಕಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಆ ಮೂವಿ ನೋಡಿ ಈ ಮೂವಿ ನೋಡಿ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತಾರೆ. I'm just saying, sister, that see how good perceptor you got. He'll tell you, you watch this movie, you watch that movie. Such a nice preceptor, no? He'll not ask you to just click, sit with your eyes closed and not do anything. So that's the best thing. See, you should go through all these things in a way where you actually enjoy the journey and also learn from it. Both should be necessary. Many times, people make spirituality very boring, very serious affair. But that's not how it is actually. Spirituality is a very, very enjoyable journey. And each one of you should actually learn to enjoy that journey. Then you can actually get other youngsters also into it. It's real fun. So experiment and fun. See the result. Experiment and see the result. And then learn from the result and move on. Experiment. Again, do one more experiment. And see the result and then learn from it and move, do the third experiment. So that's how we actually proceed in spirituality. So we were just talking in the morning. So every time you take a sitting, you lose part of your unnaturalness and you gain some degree of naturalness. That is what happens in every session of meditation. In other words, you lose bit of samskaras, you gain bit of divinity. So by doing your sadhana regularly, you actually gradually develop more and more divinity in your heart. More the divinity in your heart, at least till the 10th point, between the 10th and the 11th point is the Sachidananda, the state of Sachidananda, the state of bliss, consciousness, knowledge, existence, and bliss. So, till that time, you have every right to be happy while progressing in spirituality. You should really enjoy the journey. Right? So, post marriage, I don't know how many years people will be happy, but I'm just assuming that at least some years people will be happy. After some years, you actually get used to the mundane life of marriage. After that, that happiness gradually comes down. Right? It's a very natural thing, no? Likewise, in the initial part of your spiritual journey, from the first to the 10th point, you always experience some amount of bliss in your journey. Happiness and joy and bliss in your journey. And it's important to actually, what do you say, partake of that. Once you cross the 10th point and the 11th, 10th and 11th point and go beyond that, the actual intensity of the bliss gradually starts coming down now. Because bliss, there are two levels of bliss. The bliss between 10th and 11th point and the bliss at the center. Once you establish yourself with the reality. So that is real bliss. But this bliss between 10th and 11th point has a lot of touch of materiality to it, maya to it. Although subtler maya, not a gross maya. Okay. So enjoy the journey. So while actually passing through all these things that you're reading, also watch some of the movies and learn from it. Why not? Yeah. There is a, for Hindi, Priya sister, I want you to watch this song, Baiju Bhavara. I don't know whether you have actually heard of this movie. It's a very old movie, 50s, 60s. Very nice movie, very long movie, 3 hours movie. Bharat Bhushan is the hero. And there is one song, Bhagavan, sung by Muhammad Rafi. So I want you to listen to that song. Because some of the lyrics will actually intrigue you. The way that it is written, no, the song, the lyrics of the song is very beautiful. Some of the aspects of the lyrics. So, so listen to the song and give us a feedback in the next session. It's about 6-7 minutes song. It was one of the famous songs of Muhammad Rafi. Wherever he used to go and give a live concert, people used to make him sing that song, and he sung it very very nicely. So okay, so that's another homework. So two homework, two movies. One is ಮೂರುವರೆ ವರ್ಷಗಳು Kannada movie, and the second one is Hindi movie Baiju Bavara, Bharat Bhushan. The song Bhagwan. The title of the song is Bhagavan Bhagwan, sung by Muhammad Rafi. So these are the two homeworks for you for the next session. Okay. Now, after giving you these kinds of notorious homework, I don't know whether I actually have to put this session recording into the YouTube group. But anyway, we shall put it because I want other people also to learn and enjoy it. No problem. Anyway, shall we continue now? Before creation, perfect calmness prevailed. I think we read that, no? No. So before creation, perfect calmness prevailed all over. When it descended, so what is there in the center? Perfect calmness, perfect balance, perfect moderation. These are the three things at the center. Perfect balance, perfect moderation, perfect calmness. When it descended, it brought with it the real essence. The conditions of both were nearly the same. Wheel after wheel began to set in, and we ourselves were the doers. So, nature does not create any wheel. We create the wheels. Remember that. We are the creators of the wheels. Wheels are nothing but the samskaras. Nature does not create anything. The waves of the current raised a huge sea. Numerous drops joined together to form a river. The origin was the same drop, the essence, which came down with it. So, in other words, there is this original drop or the essence around which the other drops go on accumulating. The other drops is what is called as the samskaras or the wheels of or the coverings. The basis of the river was nothing but a few drops of water which trickled down from the
We
mountain
can't
crest
hear you.
and flowed down in the form of the river. In other words, the unnecessary additional drops mingled with it, enclosing the real essence all over and giving it an assumed form which was thicker and grosser. So when you go to the Ganga glacier, Gaumukh Parvat, you'll only see that trickle of water flowing in. But if you look at Ganga in Haridwar, you will see that it is so big. That is because a lot of other tributaries got added. Likewise, it's the same thing. In Kannada, there is a saying, ಯಾರಿಗಾನ ಗೊತ್ತಿದ್ಯಾ ನದಿ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಏನು ಹೇಳ್ತಾರೆ ಅಂತ? There is a saying in Kannada. ಯಾರನ್ನ ಕೇಳಿದಾರಾ? ನಿಖಿಲ್ ಕೇಳಿರ್ಬೇಕು ನೀನು ಜನರಲ್ ನಾಲೆಜ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಬಂದಿರುತ್ತೆ ನಿಂಗೆ.
ನದಿ ಮೂಲ ಹುಡುಕ್ಬಾರ್ದು ಹತ್ರ ಏನಾಗ ಅದ
ಕರೆಕ್ಟ್. ಬಟ್ ಫಸ್ಟ್ ಪಾರ್ಟ್ ಬಿಟ್ಬಿಟ್ಟೆ. ನದಿ ಮೂಲ ಹುಡುಕ್ಬಾರ್ದು ಸರಿ, ಫಸ್ಟ್ ಪಾರ್ಟ್ ಬಿಟ್ಬಿಟ್ಟೆ.
ಐ ಡೋಂಟ್ ನೋ ಇಫ್ ಇಟ್ ಇಸ್
ಋಷಿ ಮೂಲನೂ ಹುಡುಕ್ಬಾರ್ದು.
ಋಷಿ ಮೂಲ ನದಿ ಮೂಲ ಹುಡುಕ್ಬಾರ್ದು. ದಟ್ ಇಸ್ ದ ಫುಲ್ ಸೇಯಿಂಗ್. ಋಷಿ ಮೂಲ ನದಿ ಮೂಲ. ಡೋಂಟ್ ಗೋ ಟು ದ ಹಿಸ್ಟ್ರಿ of a sage or a river. It will be totally different from what you see currently. That's what it means. Don't go in search of the past history of a rishi, a sage, or the past history of a river. If you trace the river back to its origin, it will be like a trickle. It will not be the way that it is seen now at our end. Likewise, a sage can be totally different person than what you see that person as of now. Okay, there's another saying in English. Sharon ಹೇಳ್ತೀರಾ saint ಬಗ್ಗೆ?
Every saint was once a sinner. And every sinner has a past ಹತ್ರ ಏನಾದ್ರು.
ಇಲ್ಲ. Every saint has a past, every sinner has a future. ಆಯ್ತಾ? So even if people think that we are sinners, we are still actually giving them optimism that you have a good future. So that's the thing. Every saint has a past and every sinner has a future. What does it mean? The saint might have been a sinner in the past, but they have worked out of it. A sinner might be a sinner now, but they can work out themselves out of it and become a saint. So remember these two sayings. Okay. Anyway, now generally the grosser form of the thing alone is open to view. That's what we see in the river. We see a lot of things there. But the original trigger we forget. We can't even find where is that original trickle. By constant observation on the grosser form, the melts away after some time and only an imaginary form remains in its place. This is one of the basis why in many of the yoga organizations, they ask you to meditate on the lamp, the light. ये दिया जलाएंगे, उस पर ध्यान करने के लिए बोलेंगे. So when we focus on the diya continuously, the grosser form melts away, then the imaginary form remains. Then the imaginary form also melts away in due course. But people become afraid when the imaginary form melts away. They think that they are not doing the meditation properly and they come back to the first stage again. So the grosser form is the first stage, meditation, and then the subtler form or the imaginary form is the second stage. But people are afraid to go beyond the second stage because they feel that they are not doing it properly. So they come back to the first stage and second stage. They keep moving between first and second stage. That's how most of the people who do meditation without knowing how it should actually proceed end up actually just circulating between these two things. The grosser form and slightly subtler form. That's all. They'll not go towards the higher end of subtlety. That too by constant endeavor disappears from sight. Finally, all things which has swelled up from the original point will be lost sight of. So three stages. First you have the grosser form, then you have the imaginary form. After the grosser form disappears, then the imaginary form also disappears, then the original essence actually appears. But nobody has the capability or sensitivity to feel the original form. That's why they get stuck in the first two stages. Okay. The state can be achieved by the continued practice of doing everything with our thought resting all the while on the real point which forms the very basis of existence. That's exactly what we do when we do constant remembrance. We link everything that we do to the divinity. So we do every duty that we are supposed to do in life as a part of a duty of the divine. In that way, our thought is always connected to the divine, even though we might be doing mundane activities in this world. This pointed attention upon the real may be taken as the essence of prayer. So now please underline this. What is the essence of prayer? That might come as a question for you. This pointed attention upon the real can be taken as the essence of prayer. This is the starting point and removing of the superficialities is the first step towards it. Now people may wonder why I have called it as the beginning. It is in fact a state of consciousness. Though consciousness is present at every step, yet this one is a higher and superior consciousness. In other words, you think of the divine all the time, so you are established in a slightly higher state of consciousness because you think of the divinity all the time or the real all the time. I do not take up the subsequent stages for it would be very difficult to grasp and the final space cannot even be conceived in any way. Oneness prevails there in full swing and prayer comes before this state is entered into. So at that state of the oneness, we would have gone beyond the state of embodiment of prayer also. You remember the three states, the prayerful state and embodiment of prayer. By the time we come to the oneness of the reality, we have gone beyond the state of embodiment of the prayer also. We are not even aware. You know the fun of it. The trick is that you might start meditation with the thought that you need to become merged with divinity or become merged with master. However, if you want to enter into the 13th point, even the idea of divinity has to be given up. You cannot enter the 13th point or the central region even if you have just the idea of divinity or just the idea of merging with the divinity still intact with us. However subtle it might be. So you cannot enter. Because that idea itself will actually block your entry into the central region. For you to enter into the central region, you need to have sarupyata with God. Now, God has no desire. So, even the desire for God is also a block for our sarupyata with God. So, we cannot enter into the 13th point. So, at the 13th point, you have to give up the idea of merging with God also. Then the question comes, once you enter into the 13th point, then how will you travel? What happens there? That we shall discuss in some of the, I think we read part of it in the final state in Towards Infinity. I don't know how many people were there, but we did read about it, the final state. But it will come again in some other books also. We'll read about it when it comes. Okay. But remember that even the idea of divinity has to be given up before we enter into the central region. That is not actually very unusual. So the point is, as long as you're not getting married, you have the idea of marriage with you. Now, on the day of the marriage, will you still have the idea of getting married? That idea becomes redundant, no? Once you get married, the idea of marriage actually becomes redundant. As you go through the process of marriage, the idea of getting married becomes redundant, right? Till you get married, the idea of marriage is there. But once you go through the process of the marriage, just imagine on the day of the marriage, when does this idea of marriage is transcended by everyone? Now, who is the most recent applicant of marriage? They have to come and give us an answer. Unless the person is able to aim for multiple marriages. ಗೋಪಾಲಕೃಷ್ಣ ನಿನ್ನ ಹೆಸರು ಪ್ರಕಾರ ಈ ಮಲ್ಟಿಪಲ್ ಮ್ಯಾರೇಜಸ್ ಯೋಚನೆ ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಿ ಬಿಡಗ ಆಯ್ತಾ? No, but I'm just asking you one simple thing. On the day of the marriage, when do we actually transcend the idea of getting married? At some point, we have to transcend that idea, no?
When we get married.
No, you are getting married. That's fine. See, after the marriage is over, you have already transcended. You are entering into the 13th point after marriage. But before entering into the 13th point, you still have the idea of marriage. So there is that interim phase where the idea of marriage is got over while you actually engage in the act of marriage. So there is that small phase. That's exactly how it is. So before we actually get married, we actually transcend the idea of marriage. That's how it is. We transcend the idea of merging with the divinity before we enter into the 13th point. Obviously, once we have entered the 13th point, the idea of merging with the divine is also not there now. I don't know whether it makes sense, but that's a very critical phase where you let go of the idea of getting married, and then you subsequently you are now in the state of marriage, but there is an interim phase which is like a transient phase. Are you getting the point? Now that is exactly what is supposed to happen at the 12th point before you merge into the or enter into the 13th point. Very similar. Okay. ಅಯ್ಯಂಗಾರ ಮದುವೆ ಮನೇಲಿ ನೋಡಿದಿರಾ? ಅಯ್ಯಂಗಾರ ಮದುವೆನಲ್ಲಿ ಗಂಡು ಹೆಣ್ಣನ್ನ they make the bride and the groom sit on a swing and actually play the swing. Have you seen the marriage? In some of the traditional marriages, I think probably in Ayangars and Ayers families, the tradition is that they actually make the couple sit on the swing and they actually allow the swing to kind of move around. The reason why I'm saying you that is that from the 12th point to the 13th point, master also makes you swing from the first point to the 12th point. First point to the 12th point brings momentum, and then with that momentum takes you across the ring around the central region and lands you on the other side of the ring. That's how it works. You got the point? ಉಯ್ಯಾಲೆ ಆಡ್ತೀವಲ್ಲ, ಉಯ್ಯಾಲೆ ಆಡ್ಬೇಕಾದ್ರೆ see the swing is in the center. When you start playing the swing, somebody has to push it, no? You build momentum while you play the swing. Now, after you have sufficiently built the momentum, the abhyasi is made to jump from the swing and land on the other side into the central region. That is what happens. That's how the crossing of the ring around the central region occurs. So all the conditions that you got from the first point to the 12th point is repeated few times to build the momentum before you are made to land on the other side of the central ring around the central region. You got the point? So that's why I'm just giving you. So before you are made to land on the other side of the marriage, you are made to sit on the swing and they will actually play that swing. Again, I can give you one of the easier example. Look at, I think it's one of either Tyagaya movie, Telugu movie, or Annamaya. One of these two movies, where the couple is made to sit on a swing. You can look at that. Because it might not be there in all the traditions, because we have hundreds of traditions in India. Right? So who knows? For example, Priya sister might be knowing about the Bharat coming on a horse. We are not used to it. Right? In Muslim tradition, the female is supposed to be carried by the boy. And I don't know how they do that. If the boy is patla, and the female is moti. I don't know what they do. But the tradition is that the boy has to carry the girl on his shoulder and bring her to the marriage hall. That's how it is in Muslim families. Because one of the two Muslim Abbasis who came and who are on the verge of marriage, they told me all these things. This is what is done as a ritual in their community. So, unfortunately, that marriage was quite farther away in the coastal Karnataka. Otherwise, I would have gone for that marriage. It was quite far, so I could not go. Okay. Anyway, these three stages, 2.5 as one might say, because one after that awareness is lost, may for the value of understanding be taken as the entire space from the beginning to the end. The intermediary stage is also implied in it. This, which I have termed as the beginning, is in fact the real abode. Perhaps there may be some difficulty in accepting as the beginning or the final first stage of prayer. The idea is analogous with that of a child who starts learning the alphabet with a view to secure higher approach, so that subsequently he may start tackling higher problems and deeper thoughts. That means the ideal was before him, though at the time he was entangled only in the structure of words and letters. This preliminary stage may appear to be a superficiality in comparison with this final stage. Has anybody grasped this particular paragraph? So, to children, we teach words, small sentences, all these things. But the alphabets and the words that we teach a small child is the basis on which, when that child grows up, they develop the ability to handle higher problems and deeper thoughts. If the earlier teaching of the alphabet and the words itself is not good enough, then the child's ability as when they become adult to handle deeper thoughts will also be impaired. Do you agree? Although we teach ABCD, without that ABCD, you will not be able to tackle higher thoughts now. How is it possible? So that ABCD becomes the basis after you grow for you to handle your higher thoughts. In other words, the child might not be aware that they are able to use those alphabets for that higher states eventually. Likewise, the initial prayer state, you might not be aware that you are utilizing that for tackling the higher conditions. But that's exactly what you will end up doing, tackling reality itself. That's why Babuji says the prayer encompasses from the starting to the end. All stages are covered in the prayer itself. That's why we said yesterday that if you do the prayer properly and if you hold on to the prayer properly, all the conditions at all the points open up naturally. Prayer is so powerful that it's actually more powerful than meditation. But not many people actually utilize the prayer for that particular right perspective or right purpose. Many people tend to do prayer more mechanically. They just utter the prayer for 1 or 2 minutes and leave it. But prayer, if it is done properly, it should gradually lead you to prayerful state and then embodiment of prayer and then to reality itself. Remember one thing, we have to cross the need for meditation, the need for cleaning, and the need for prayer before we establish ourselves with reality. Babuji used to send many people to central region and then tell them there is no need for you to further practice now. You can just do the mission work and that will be sufficient for your further journey. Because anyway, in the central region, we cannot do anything. The entire journey in the central region is the work of the master. Because we don't have the mind, we don't have the consciousness, we don't have the will, the desire also is gone. Mind is gone, consciousness is gone, ego is gone. Then how will you proceed in the central region? We do every activity here because of three things. We have got the mind, we have got the ego, and we have got the desires, and we have got the consciousness. Now, once you enter into central region where all these four are gone, how are you going to actually make the journey further? So the entire journey in the central region is the handiwork of the master only. That is why the more you surrender to the master before you enter into the central region, the easier will be your journey in the central region. Otherwise, even entry into the central region is impossible. Okay. Anyway, I hope you got the gist of this particular paragraph. That even though we may teach alphabets and letters to a child, the child knowingly or unknowingly have the idea of tackling higher problems and deeper thoughts eventually. And this initial small tidings of the letters and the alphabets and the words, that makes it possible for the child to tackle higher things when it grows up. Likewise, when the prayer is done appropriately, it actually helps you to tackle higher states of consciousness, higher conditions that open up because of the virtue of the prayer. Without the prayer as a basic itself, the higher conditions cannot be sustained. So one of the things that you can actually do to sustain your condition and actually digest your condition and make it your own, do the AEIOE, is a prayer. If you do the prayer and if you are in the prayerful state, you will digest the condition pretty easily. Doing AEIOU of the condition becomes pretty natural with the help of the prayer when you are in a prayerful state. Okay. Anyway, the first stage exists in every man who starts prayer, but if the final point is in view, it will influence the grosser thing too, and by he will attain a state where the main point alone will be before him and he will have his stay on it. So this is something why I keep emphasizing about importance of goal. The first line of prayer, what does it say? O Master, thou art the real goal of human life. In other words, we actually remind ourselves of the goal. What is the goal? O Master initially is the center or the ultimate or the absolute. Now, when we start the prayer as a abhyasi, we cannot relate that O Master to the Guru. Our heart does not allow that to happen. Okay? Because we don't have blind belief. We don't ask anybody to blindly believe the Master. So what happens is, when you utter the prayer, O Master, see, this is exactly what happens. I keep talking and Dheeraj is drinking water. ಧೀರಜ್ ಕೇಳಿಸ್ಕೊಳ್ಳೇ ಇಲ್ಲ. ಕೇಳಿಸ್ಕೊಂಡೆ ಧೀರಜ್? Huh?
Yes, brother. Sorry.
It's all right, man. It's okay. You drink. But I'm just telling you the usual thing I see. That I keep talking, somebody else will be drinking water. So I don't know whether I actually make them so thirsty just listening to the talk. The entire system gets heated up. So you need to drink cold water. I'm pretty much sure that you drank cold water.
Yes, brother.
No, it's all right. This has happened many times. So I'm just kind of pulling your leg, not to worry. You can drink as much water as you want.
You're transmitting the condition.
Condition transmit ಆಗಿ ಅವ್ನು ಹೀಟ್ ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇದೆ ಅಂತ ನೋಡೋದು. ಸರಿನಾ? So what is there in pause? Gopal Krishna?
I remember the feeling, but I don't remember the word.
When I asked the question about pause, Gopal Krishna paused.
There's so much more that is conveyed in pause than in
Correct. Why is though? What is there in that pause? We spoke in the morning.
silence.
Something is there.
Silence.
Not silence. Something else. So every time we speak, we need to give some gap between two sentences. We
That
should not
is the
continuously
the
speak.
condition.
ಇಲ್ಲ ಇದು ನೀವು ಫಸ್ಟ್ 5 pages ಅಲ್ಲೇ ಇದೆ, ಆದ್ರೆ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ದಾಜಿ ಬರ್ದಿಲ್ಲ ಏನಿದೆ ಅಂತ. ವಿ ಜಸ್ಟ್ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪ್ಲೈನ್ ಇನ್ ದ ಮಾರ್ನಿಂಗ್ ಟುಡೇ ವೆನ್ ವಿ ವರ್ ರೀಡಿಂಗ್ ದ ಅದರ್ ಬುಕ್. In every pause, there is the power of time. Time itself is power. Remember, So when you give a pause, you allow the power of time to work on your heart and mind. And that creates multiple levels of understanding. How does the pause create multiple levels of understanding or multiple perspective of understanding? Because the power of time is acting in the pause. So it evokes a different kind of vibration at the heart, different kind of vibration at the mind. So multiple patterns at the different kind of vibration at the vibration level. So multiple perspective actually comes to the fore during the pause because you are allowing the power of time to work on you. And I did mention that even while giving the sitting, pauses are given. I mentioned that in the morning. You nodded head like just now in the morning also. See how easily we forget. ಬೆಳಗ್ಗೆ ಆಗಿತ್ತು ಆಲ್ರೆಡಿ ಮರೆತು ಹೋಗಿದೆ. ಅದಕ್ಕೇನೆ many times when we say these points which are not there in the book ಅಲ್ಲ, you should make a note. Otherwise you'll forget it. ಆಯ್ತಾ? So the pause is very, very important. Whenever we give a pause, see in communication, now from today, be aware of the pause when you communicate with anybody. You utter one sentence, give few milliseconds or few seconds of pause. And then utter the next sentence. See the impact of it. Your speech actually becomes more impactful than when you actually strive to speak continuously. When you actually try to speak continuously by compulsion or with lot of energy, you are utilizing your energy. And of course, that energy is very gross. And whenever we actually speak with a gross energy, with more force, the ego of the other person is going to stop it. It's going to block it. When we speak with lot of pauses in between, the time does not, the ego cannot stop the power of time. ಇವತ್ತು ಬೆಳಗ್ಗೆ ನಾನು ಇನ್ನೊಂದು ಹೇಳ್ತಿದ್ದೆ, ಏನು ಹೇಳಿದೆ ಯಶಸ್ಸಿಗೆ? I said something after we were coming down during the stairs, just before you were lifting the chairs.
Spiritual essence is irresistible.
Irresistible, correct. Spiritual essence cannot be resisted. There is no antidote to it. Nobody can resist it. Once the spiritual essence starts flowing in our heart, nobody around you can resist it. Wherever you go, you start showing your influence there. Now, once you see that effect, you know that the spiritual essence is actually flowing through you now. Everyone will gradually start coming under your influence. Not because you are actually forcing them or asking them to do anything repeatedly, but they'll start listening to you more. Without you actually being forceful to them. Just a suggestion, they will listen. And that's the beauty of it. So once the spiritual essence flows, the suggestion is enough. When the spiritual essence is not there, then we have to use lot of force, ego, everything to actually make them do what we want. See, just last 2 days, I was thinking about cake, wanting to eat cake. You know, my wife brought the cake now. I had not even told her. This is the beauty of spirituality. So before coming to the session today, I had a nice cup of coffee and good cake. You don't actually need to say anything to anybody. It just comes to you automatically. You just think of it, it will come in search of you. That's the beauty. So my daughter was saying, this is how spirituality should be made use of in life. She also got a piece of cake, that's why. So, no, I'm not, you might feel that I'm actually joking. I'm not joking. I'm actually telling you this is how it works. Nowadays, if I think of a movie that I want to watch on the YouTube, automatically it will come as a recommendation in the YouTube. Some of the clips I have seen in the past, say a few months back, if I remember it, it will automatically come as a recommendation. I'll watch it again. So in other words, that you might wonder, how are we, our willpower and YouTube, how are they connected? And that is why I said The Sankalpa Shakti or the willpower penetrates everything. There is nothing in this universe which cannot be penetrated by our Sankalpa Shakti and willpower, thought power and willpower. It penetrates everything. Now, people might actually want to kind of explode a nuclear bomb, but with the help of the thought power, you can actually block it from happening. Now, one of the person said, "How can you block explosion of a nuclear power?" Oh, very very simple. Take away the thought of exploding the nuclear bomb. That's it. You don't need to do anything. Then the nuclear bomb will not explode. As long as that's exactly what the Laraji does. One of the person actually has a thought of harming Babuji. And you know what Lalaji does? Lalaji makes that thought inactive. So the person is not able to execute his action. So in other words, you know what he does? He cuts off the energy flow to that particular thought. See how wonderful it is. You don't need to fight with him. You just make another Sankalpa Shakti to cut off the energy flow to that thought, any harmful thought. Then they cannot execute the harmful thought because there is no energy flow. There is no, the thought cannot get converted into action without energy. You remember we spoke about it? So for the thought to get converted into action, you require energy. You cut off the energy. Then you might have the thought, but you cannot do anything. So that is why the spiritual power or the what you say the thought power or the will power has no antidote to it. Now, when the spiritual essence starts flowing from you, these are the two things that you will gain. And you will start making utilization of this. Of course, you should not make utilization of this for cake and all. I'm just telling you. Okay. But what I mean to say is that it works in the material realm also, it works in the spiritual realm also. When you make your willpower strong by the spiritual process, the same willpower can be utilized for spiritual things also, material things also. Babaji writes about it. He says you can utilize it for material things also. Why not? But primarily, that willpower can be made strong only when you actually strive in the spiritual realm. That's what you have to remember. Okay. Now don't go on visualizing the cake tonight. Tomorrow morning, let me have a cake. Okay. No
Brother,
problem.
tomorrow I'll tell you something about this.
Tell me. See again, Praveen has had some experience. I don't know whether cake or Dharwad peda. Let him tell. Praveen had got Dharwad peda when he got the baby. So Praveen, ನಿಮ್ದು ಇದು ಆಯ್ತನ್ರಿ ಇಂಟರ್ವ್ಯೂ ಎಲ್ಲ ಆಯ್ತಲ್ವಾ
ಹಾ ಆಯ್ತು.
ಮೆಂಟರ್ ಕೆಲಸ ಶುರು ಆಯ್ತಾ ಕಾಂಟ್ಯಾಕ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರು ಅವರು
ಆ, ನಾಳೆ ಬರ್ತೀನಿ ಅಂದಿರಲ್ಲ ಅವರು ಸಿಟ್ಟಿಂಗ್ ನಿಮ್ಮ ಹತ್ರ ಅಲ್ಲೇ ಮೀಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀನಿ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ದಾರೆ.
ಯಾರು
ಇವರು ಭಟ್ ಆಮ್, ಭದ್ರಾವತಿ.
ಮೋಹನ್ ರಾಮ
ಹ್ಮ್.
ಸರಿ ಸರಿ ಮೋಹನ್ ರಾಮ್ ನೋಡಿ ಭದ್ರಾವತಿ ಭದ್ರಾವತಿ ಅಂತಾರೆ ಯಾವ ಭದ್ರಾವತಿ ಅಂತ ನೋಡ್ತೀವಿ ನಾವು ಮೋಹನ್ ರಾಮ್ ಬಿ ಅವ್ರ ಹೆಸರು ಮೋಹನ್ ರಾಮ್ ಬಿ ಬಿ ಇಸ್ ಭದ್ರಾವತಿ ಆಯ್ತು ಸೊ ನೋ ಪ್ರಾಬ್ಲಮ್ ಮೋಹನ್ ರಾಮ್ ನಾಳೆ ಬರ್ತೀನಿ ಅಂತ ಮೆಸೇಜ್ ಏನು ಮಾಡಿರಲಿಲ್ಲ ಸಿಟ್ಟಿಂಗ್ ಬರ್ತೀನಿ ಅಂತ ಐ ಡಿಂಟ್ ಸಿ ಇಸ್ ಮೆಸೇಜ್
ಹೌದು
ಐ ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಟು
ಹೌದಾ,
ಚೆಕ್
ನಂಗೆ ಮೆಸೇಜ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರು ನಾಳೆ ಬರ್ತಿದ್ದೀರಾ ಅಂತ.
ಓಕೆ ನೋ ಪ್ರಾಬ್ಲಮ್ ಹಿ ಮೈಟ್ ಕಮ್ ವಾಟ್ ಎವರ್ ನೋ ಪ್ರಾಬ್ಲಮ್ ಲೆಟ್ ಹಿಮ್ ಕಮ್ ಬಟ್ the book reading sessions are online we just started today so you can also start with him from tomorrow sometime okay
ಯಾ ಟೈಮ್ ಫಿಕ್ಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಿದ್ರೆ ಬೆಳಗ್ಗೆ 6:15 to 7 o'clock ಅಂತ.
I think that's the best thing. Now, ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಬೆಳಗ್ಗೆ ಇಟ್ಕೊಂಡಿದ್ದೀವಿ. We can finish it in the morning and then rest of the day we have time to ponder and then reflect on it while doing other activities also. And most of the talks that we are doing for the state level will be in the evening between 8 and 9. So if you keep that 8 and 9 free, finish off the book reading in the morning. That's the best thing to do. So anyway, so we will talk about fulfillment of Praveen's what do you say desires tomorrow, next session.
Not desires, it was like I said something simply and it actually happened just last week only.
We'll talk about it in the
I'll
next
tell you.
Sunday. Sunday we'll talk about
No,
it.
I can tell you here itself. Last week, I just remembered. It's been like 20 days since I left Bangalore. I just thought What if my bike tire get deflated because of heat? And my bike was in my friend's house. I went to collect it. I saw it was actually deflated. It was not because of heat, something else, but it was deflated.
Now, these kinds of things start happening at the fourth point, initially, on and off. It starts at the fourth point. And this work starts occurring at the fourth point. Some of these things will come into our experience. But as we grow higher and higher, they tend to become more and more frequent than just to say it's just coincidence. In other words, we start getting a feeling that something else is at work behind all these things happening. So, by the time you come to the 12th point, it tends to happen so frequently that it becomes synchronicity no longer actually makes you, what do you say, surprised. It tends to happen so frequently. So that's what happens. So it starts at the fourth point, gradually increases in frequency. Two things. One, it increases in frequency. Second, the time duration for manifestation goes on decreasing. Frequency increases, the duration of time before the manifestation decreases. These are the two things that occur. Okay. ಸರಿಪ್ಪ ನಮ್ ಗೋಪಾಲ ಕೃಷ್ಣ ಏನ್ ಹೇಳ್ತಾ ಇವತ್ತು ಮಲ್ಟಿಪಲ್ ಮ್ಯಾರೇಜಸ್ ಅಂತ
ಮೊದ್ಲು ಒಂದ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಂಡು ಇದು ಆಗ್ಲಿ.
ಒಂದ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಂಡು ಸುಧಾರಿಸ್ಲಿ ಆಮೇಲೆ ಇನ್ನೊಂದು ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಳ್ಳಿ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತೀಯಾ? ಆಯ್ತು ಸರಿ ಹಾಗಾದ್ರೆ ಲೆಟ್ us stop here. I thought we'll finish it today, but another 2-3 pages are there. We'll finish it on Sunday. No problem. Because anyway, one good news is your pre-work has got extended by 1 month. So your modules will start only in August 1st. So you have around enough time. So nothing to worry. So Priya sister, we already have put in the recordings of the previous session in the YouTube channel.